Welcome back to the Star Trek Critic, where each episode is treated like a school project, starting with 100 points, then 1 point taken away for each error, with some annoying commentary along the way. Also, much of these videos are screenshots to avoid copyright claims. Today's video is Datalore, and like so many other TV shows where you meet a long-lost relative, something bad is going to happen. The first point was lost 26 years ago when the Tripoli found Data, since they obviously did not look around to find out what happened to the colony. Now you wonder, who the heck is Mark? Picard and Riker brace for subwarp by letting out farts. Picard and Riker are both thinking, Data is in his quarters. Should we contact him on the intercom, which is very convenient, or just send Wesley as a reason to get the bratty kid off the bridge? They send Wesley. -1 point for not using the intercom, -1 point for Wesley not knocking first, and -1 point for Data not knowing what a cold is. It will be impossible to cure the common cold, so -1 point. Wesley should also be wearing a communicator, so -1 point. And -1 point for Wesley wearing the rainbow shirt 2 episodes in a row in air date order. Data is agog about being on his home planet and about sneezing. This view to me looks like 3 planets orbiting 1 star. Another anomaly, the Tripoli reported farmlands, so -1 point. Geordi says the first I. There is also the question of how long Data was with the colonists before the entity came, and were the memories being stored over a long period of time or at the last minute? Wesley takes the place of that girl in the skirt. See, here she goes. But now she's gone, so -1 point. And -1 point for the kid parking the Enterprise and not the trained officer. -1 point for a messed up stardate. If you want to get technical, the colonists' memories were downloaded in one big memory dump, so anything like that would be in a hurry. If Geordi's visor could find that door, the Tripoli scanners could have found it too, so -1 point. A beautiful screenshot of the Warriors. Wait, did they land on the Alpha Beta moon base? Something here looks really familiar.
What have you found?
All I found is that these red lights keep moving back and forth.
Thing with red lights, I keep going back and forth. Doesn't make any sense.
Wonderful drawings of kids escaping a giant snowflake. Why does Riker think the first baseman created Data?
Who's playing third base? No, who's on first?
The next point is lost since no one realizes Dr. Soong created Data. I mean, they look exactly alike. Even if Dr. Soong looked different, someone would have realized by the way Data was designed that he was created by Earth's foremost robotic scientist. Here is the proof. Data has a positronic brain. How did no one make the connection? Tasha says I number 2. Data finds the old Halloween mask he used as a kid. Another point is lost for not bringing original diagrams of the colony with him. And another point for not bringing a science research team with the senior staff. You don't even have to show the other team, you just have to say they beamed down at another location. Warning, the following may not be appropriate for all ages, but to attract a bigger robot audience, they show a naked android butt. -1 point here, since this is the worst facsimile of Data's head you could create. An interesting part of this episode is how the crew starts calling Lore it, and how Data reacts to that. They have done it twice so far. The next point is lost because according to this stardate, only about 30 seconds have passed. Another point is lost for only spending 2 hours at the planet and not doing more research. That is a big waste of taxpayers' money. There is no way Data or Lore were constructed like this, where you just put the pieces together, so -1 point. Data is so excited that his android brother is here, he lets out a really good fart. Why is Riker asking if Data has all his parts? That sounds like something Tasha would be asking, wouldn't it? Data calls Commander Riker Will, then says, you feel uncomfortable. Is there something else going on here that we don't know about? They refer to it as it again. Picard goes into his philosophical mansplaining. After all, the next generation is much more cerebral than the original. Picard is so nervous he lets out a fart too. More cerebral banter. Oh look, they took the drawings but left the planet in under 2 hours. They seem strangely unconcerned about doing research on why a whole planet was destroyed. Data tells Dr. Crusher how to turn him off. Obviously, his father didn't give him that talk that he is supposed to tell girls how to turn him on. How many projections does Data have? No wonder the girls like him. This is the last time we see Chief Argyle. Aww. Lore speaks. Here's where Data politely asks Picard, please quit calling Lore it. Picard's like, well, it was in the script for everyone to say stupid things like that once we saw Lore until you actually said something about it. And -1 point here for asking Data if he's going to turn against Starfleet just because he discovered he has a brother. Minus 1 point for allowing Lore access to the bridge. Riker calls Lore on his BS. They should all know Lore is playing stupid. Data actually stands up to Riker here, saying the captain has to approve him on the bridge. Look closely, this woman passes by twice, so minus 1 point, and minus 1 point for a single set of doors on the turbolift. Data secretly admits what he does with the women on the ship during his off time. Seriously, the girls must love him since he is fully functional and can keep a secret. Worf and Riker are both thinking, these two brothers are going to get into a fist fight soon, aren't they? The next point is lost because Lore would not have a Starfleet haircut with the triangular sideburns. If you ever ask Brent Spiner how he learned to act with his identical twin so well, he will tell you he was inspired by watching Alice on the Brady Bunch. Minus 1 point for Data not blocking sensitive information on his computer. Lore sounds very ambitious here. His speech sounds a lot like this machine's speech.
I want to see gamma rays. I want to hear X-rays, and I want to feel the solar wind of a supernova flowing over me.
Now Lore is getting under Data's skin. So why can't Data just add contractions to his language program? Minus 1 point because a machine that smart should be able to do it. Data does not trust Lore. He might be upset that he's no longer unique in the galaxy. It's a lot like the way your only cat acts when you bring home a new cuddly kitten. This is a reminder, never let your long-lost relative use your computer. Another point lost for this stardate. They beamed down for a couple hours, took several hours to reconstruct Lore, and Lore has been walking around for at least a day, but less than 30 minutes have passed? Remember, 3 whole numbers is about 1 Earth day. Lore may be an ass, but he did tell him about the crystal entity, which will soon be coming to eat them, thanks to Lore. Yes, it will be eating them to go. Tasha is keeping an eye on Lore, but Dr. Crusher gets after Data for watching him. Tasha is correct asking this question as security chief, but it should have been behind closed doors, so minus 1 point. Lore poisons Data the old-fashioned way. Data falls backwards, but lands face down, so minus 1 point. Worf only has 4 lines in this whole episode, so minus 1 point. Here is proof that the rainbow shirt is a Federation uniform. Wesley performs the Picard maneuver. Security's thinking, haha, you just said that to get him off the bridge, didn't you? Wesley is onto Lore and says I number 3. Minus 1 point for nobody noticing Data is acting differently and talking like Lore. Wesley should have alerted Tasha on her console instead of freak out like he did, so minus 1 point. And yes, he is smart enough to do that. The crystal is chasing the Enterprise at warp speed, and now they're stopped. Why? Minus 1 point. And again, Geordi looked at the crystal through a different window other than the main viewer. Wesley performs the Picard maneuver a second time. For a minute it looks like Riker is onto Wesley, but when they get down to Data's quarters, he gets tricked too. Aww. So minus 1 point for Riker not having security or Chief Argyle come to Data's quarters to help out. Of course, if Deanna was in the show, she would be able to sense the change too, but she's not, so minus 1 point. Minus 1 point because nobody will listen to Wesley. Even after Lore, posing as Data, talks to the crystal, they still don't get it. And he doesn't know what the term make it so means either. Wesley performs the Picard maneuver a 3rd time. Picard's like, oh hell no, only I can do the Picard maneuver. Tasha says, I number 4. Wesley performs the Picard maneuver a 4th time. And Crusher says, Wesley, you're not old enough to do the Picard maneuver. Wesley gets his mother kicked off the bridge. Yes! Worf gets beat up by Lore. Aww. Minus 1 point for a doctor carrying a phaser on the ship. Shout out to Brent Spiner for being able to sit up like that. He must be doing yoga. Minus 1 point for Dr. Crusher not shooting him when the door opened. How sad. The only android in the galaxy wishes he didn't have his brother. It was way too easy for Lore to get that phaser, so minus 1 point. Earlier, Worf was separated from 2 security officers, but they never show up, so minus 1 point. Lore shoots the doctor, and the fight begins. Look closely, the phaser flies through the air and breaks in half on the transporter pad. Minus 1 point for obvious stunt doubles. The phaser is back in one piece, so minus 1 point. Wesley saves the day. Minus 1 point for Tasha not sending a closer security team. Minus 1 point for Data using a contraction one last time. This is the captain's way of saying, Wesley, we should have listened to you and not told you to shut up because you're the reason none of us are getting eaten right now by a giant snowflake. Wesley says, I number 5 so we can party. And -1 point for not beaming Lore back to the ship and taking him apart. Biff Yeager departs after 2 episodes as Chief Argyle, but he has 140 screen credits including TJ Hooker, Knight Rider, and Gilmore Girls. Datalore, the episode where Wesley performs a Picard maneuver 4 times and saves the crew, gets a score of 55%. Thanks for viewing, please leave comments below, check out my other videos and playlists, and most important of all, click that like button, the share button, the subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon.